The cafeteria buzzed with chatter and laughter, but Vine's world was silent, her gaze fixed on her untouched lunch. Across the table, her best friend nudged her. Jenny. Hey, are you okay? You've been zoned out all day. Vine didn't respond. How could she? All she could think was about, all she could think about was Jungkook standing far too close to that girl earlier, Haejin. He had a ring in his hand that he gave to her, and she slid it into her finger while smiling like crazy. Her chest tightened at the thought. She wasn't supposed to feel this jealous or insecure, but there it was, gnawing at her. Suddenly, the chair beside her scraped back. She didn't need to look up to know who it was. Jungkook had this presence about him that she could sense before he even spoke. Fine, Jungkook said, his voice low and filled with confusion. He leaned closer, his elbows resting on the table. What's wrong? Why have you been avoiding me since this morning? She finally looked at him, her eyes cool and distant, though the storm inside her brewed wildly. Why don't you ask her? Her words were sharp, biting harder than she intended. Jungkook blinked. What? Who are you talking about? You know exactly who I'm talking about. Wine replied, crossing her arms over her chest. I saw you with Haejin, Jungkook, putting a ring on her finger. A ring. Realization dawned on Jungkook's face. He groaned softly, running a hand through his dark hair. You're talking about that? Wine, come on. I don't need an explanation. She cut him off, standing abruptly, grabbing her bag. She couldn't bear to sit there and hear whatever excuse he had prepared. I get it, Jungkook. You don't need to pretend like nothing happened. Before she could walk away, Jungkook grabbed her wrist gently, forcing her to stop. His voice softened as he stood up, his eyes searching hers desperately. No, you don't get it, because you're not listening to me. Wine, just please, give me a chance to explain. She yanked her wrist free, though his touch lingered on her skin. Why should I? Because I love you, he said firmly, his words stopping her in her tracks. The cafeteria had gone quiet, at least in her mind, those three words echoing louder than anything. She turned around slowly, staring at him. Jungkook took a step closer, lowering his voice. Wine, that was nothing. I asked Haejin to try on the ring because I needed to check the size. Her hands are almost the same as my sister. I was getting it for her. You know I would never, ever do anything to hurt you. His voice cracked slightly at the end, and Vine felt her resolve cracking. Jungkook had this annoying, undeniable way of making her heart soften, even when she didn't want it to. You expect me to believe that? She whispered, her voice trembling. Jungkook let out a frustrated sigh, but instead of replying, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled something out, a small, neatly wrapped box with a ribbon. This, Jungkook said, holding it out toward her, is the gift I was helping her pick up. I didn't want to say it anything because it's for you, for our 6 months anniversary. Vine blinked, staring at the box as if it might vanish. Her heart pounded in her chest as her brain scrambled to process his words. Vine, wait, this is for me? Jungkook nodded, his expression serious but hopeful. Yeah, I wanted it to be perfect, so I asked Haejin for help. She knows a lot about jewelry, okay? But it doesn't mean anything else. You're the only person I want. For a moment, Vine was speechless. She stared at the gift in his hands, then at the sincere look in his eyes. Why didn't you just tell me before? She muttered, guilt creeping in. Jungkook smirked softly, closing the distance between them. Maybe because my girlfriend doesn't let me explain when she's mad. Wine huffed, embarrassed, and looked down. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I shouldn't have doubted you. Damn right, Jungkook teased, tilting her chin up so she had no choice but to look at him. His eyes softened, the teasing replaced by warmth. But I forgive you, as long as you promise me one thing. Wine. What? He smirked again, his voice dropping to that husky tone that made her stomach flip. Let me punish you for doubting me. Wine's cheeks burned. Punish me? Hmm, he murmured, brushing a strand of hair from her face and leaning in closer. A kiss. Right here, right now, in front of everyone. Wine's eyes widened. Jungkook, she hissed. You can't just. Jungkook. Too late. It's part of the deal, he said with a grin, sliding his arms in around her waist and pulling her flush against him. The cafeteria seemed to collectively hold its breath as Jungkook leaned down, his lips brushing hers softly, teasingly. Wine. Jungkook, she whispered, her voice shaky. Jungkook, you owe me, he murmured before capturing her lips fully in a kiss that stole her breath. His lips moved against hers tenderly, but with just enough firmness to let her know he wasn't letting her go anytime soon. Her arms found their way around his neck as she melted into the kiss, the world around them fading into a blur. When Jungkook finally pulled back, he rested his forehead against hers, his gaze soft and filled with love. Next time, he whispered, just talk to me before jumping to conclusions, okay? Vine nodded shyly, her cheeks still flushed. Okay. Jungkook grinned, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead. Good girl. Now let's get out of here before someone faints. As they walked out of the cafeteria hand in hand, Vine knew one thing for sure. She might have doubted him, but Jungkook would always be the person to prove her wrong in the best possible way.